I texted our family group. Plane lands 6:30 p.m. Can you get me? Just said goodbye to my husband forever in Germany. My sister replied, no time, call a cab. Mother-in-law added, should have planned ahead. I quietly typed, okay. But when they turned on the evening news, their faces went white. I typed that message with a shaking thumb in a dim airport cafe in Frankfurt. The overhead lights were too bright, the coffee tasted like burnt almonds, and the screen of my phone made my eyes feel raw. I texted our family group. Plane lands 6:30 p.m. Can you get me? Just said goodbye to my husband forever in Germany. My sister replied, no time, call a cab. Mother-in-law added, should have planned ahead. I quietly typed, okay. But when they turned on the evening news, their faces went white. That's the sentence I've replayed 100 times, because everything after it came like rain on hot pavement, sudden, steaming, the smell sharp in your nose. And before all this, it was just an ordinary Thursday. The kind that feels like gum you're chewing without tasting, because your mind is stuck on something else. Morning started with the neighbor's sprinkler clicking against the side fence. The sun came up slow and syrupy, nudging through the slats and laying lines across the kitchen counter. The cat, Tater, hopped up like he owned the place and knocked his bowl with his forehead, the way he always did. I poured his food and then poured myself coffee into the mug with the little chip on the handle. The chip always fit against my thumb, the way habit fits, mug warm against the skin. I looked around the kitchen. There was a dish towel hanging crooked. The Last Supper picture from my husband's mother still on the wall from when she redecorated to bring the home some light, she'd said. I'd wanted to take it down a dozen times, but then I'd remember her face when she hung it. So careful, like she was balancing a piece of her breath on a nail. And I left it. Everything was in its place, but it didn't feel like my place anymore. It hadn't for a while. It was my day off from the clinic, which meant my day to do all the things I put off on other days. I had a list. Buy trash bags. Mail my nephew's birthday card. Replace the burnt-out bulb in the hallway. Call the health insurance line about that bill. Little things that add up to more than a Saturday, more than a person. My husband, Mark, was in Germany for work. He'd already been there for 3 weeks, and it was like he existed in a different season. When I called him, I could hear church bells through the phone, and his voice sounded stretched, like gum pulled too thin. I had gone over last week to say goodbye. Because the day before I flew out, he told me he was going to stay. For good. He didn't say, I don't love you. He said, this is what's best for both of us. He said, you know we've been drifting. He said, don't make this harder. He said it with the voice of someone telling you there's traffic ahead. Better take an exit now or you'll be sitting still for hours with all your thoughts. The small kindness of the warning made me want to throw the phone across the room. But I didn't. I booked a flight and I went. It felt like washing your face in cold water getting on that plane. A clean shock, a decision, closure. People say closure like a door closing gently. Mine slammed. The last thing I did in Germany was stand with him on a little stone bridge over a river where people had tied ribbons to the railing. The wind moved the ribbons, soft, like whispered jokes. He touched my shoulder, quick like brushing off lint, and then I hugged him anyway. He didn't hug back at first. Then he patted my back twice. That was our final goodbye. He walked one way and I walked another. I didn't look back. I wanted to, but I didn't. You can live or you can watch yourself living, and I didn't have the energy for both. On the flight home, I sat between a teenager in a hoodie who slept with his mouth open and a woman with a silk scarf who kept asking the flight attendant for sparkling water. The woman smelled like orange blossom. I closed my eyes and tried to smell it like it was a memory I liked. I tried to think about simple things. The color of my front door, the feel of my porch rug under my bare feet, how the mailbox creaks if you lift it too slow. On the tiny screen in front of me, they showed a map of our plane crawling across the ocean. A little white shape with a shadow like a thought following it. When turbulence hit, the seatbelt sign chimed, and a baby 3 rows up began to cry. I counted the seconds between the bounces. Breathe in, count 3. Breathe out, count 5. That's what the counselor I used to see told me to do when I started feeling like a glass of water someone was carrying too fast, water sloshing over the rim. Count, breathe, drink water. I had a bottle, the cheap kind that caves in when you grab it, the plastic clicking under your fingers. When we landed, I texted the family group. It was all the people who had been my family, even before I married Mark. And then his family, who became mine, by paper and habit. My mama passed a few years ago, and my sister and I got closer after that. There was my sister Caroline, who lives 15 minutes away, but says the traffic is always too much. There was my father, who mostly sends thumbs-up emojis like he's passing out coins. There was Mark's mother, Susan, who likes to plan meals that require 3 ovens. There was my brother-in-law, Eric, who always says he's heading out the door in 5 minutes, even when he's sitting in shorts with no shoes on. That's who I texted. Plane lands 6:30 p.m. Can you get me? Just said goodbye to my husband forever in Germany. I don't know why I wrote it like that. Maybe I wanted someone to understand that it wasn't a regular flight. I wanted someone to be at the curb with a sign that said, "You did the hard thing. You're home. I got you." I didn't expect a parade. I just wanted somebody to look for my face in the sliding doors and wave. My phone lit up almost right away. Caroline wrote, "No time. Call a cab." A minute later, a gray bubble appeared, and then it popped with the word bubble. Tiny dots like little knives. Susan chimed in. Should have planned ahead. The thing about being hurt is that your body doesn't care if it's a small cut or a deep slice. It just bleeds. I typed okay. That word felt like swallowing a stone. I got off the plane and followed strangers through the wash of that airport air, the mix of jet fuel and cinnamon pretzels, and someone's cologne. I rolled my bag along the carpet that gets darker near the edges. I walked past the news shop with the glossy covers. A headline about a storm off the coast. A celebrity smile. A picture of a dog in a sweater. A cashier with nails so long she tapped the counter in a rhythm that made my chest feel tight. I stood by the carousel and watched bags slide down and thump. People reached and grabbed and called out, "That one's mine." I waited. I picked up my bag. The handle stuck for a second and then gave, and my shoulder jerked. Outside, the air was thick. The humidity hugged me, the kind of hug you accept because fighting it would use more energy than you have. I called a rideshare, and the app told me my driver's name was Tom. He arrived in a silver sedan with a dangling air freshener shaped like a Christmas tree in July. He had on a baseball cap that said Lake Life and a beard peppered with gray. "Airport nights," he said, like we were old friends sharing a joke about a small town we both grew up in. "Yep," I said. My voice came out like a borrowed sweater. Close, but not mine. We drove. He had on a country station. A woman sang about making biscuits and leaving a man who wouldn't change. Outside the window, the sky had that strange color that comes before a storm. The shade that makes you think of bruised fruit. We passed a billboard that said "Jesus Saves" in big white letters on a blue background. And the white paint flakes had chipped in a way that made the J look like a fishhook. "You look tired," Tom said, soft, not in the rude way. He was looking at the road, not me, which made it easier to answer. "It's been a long day," I said. It felt like the understatement of the year. He nodded like he knew I didn't mean the airport kind of long. When we got near my street, the sky finally split and rain started. Big drops, the kind that slap the windshield and then smear. He pulled into my driveway, and the tires made that wet squeak. I paid and tipped him more than I should have, and he thanked me like people thank you when they see you need it. Inside, the house smelled like closed-up air and my detergent, the lavender kind that makes everything smell like you tried. I put my bag down, and my cat came out from under the couch and walked around my ankles, meowing like he'd been practicing. I picked him up, pressed my face into his fur, which smelled like dust and sunshine. I said, "Hey, buddy," and my voice broke on the second word. The first thing I did was turn on the lamp in the corner, the one with the yellow shade that makes the room look like a photograph from the 70s. I put water on for tea because making tea is one step and then another, even if you don't drink it. I took off my shoes. I stood in the kitchen in my socks and stared at the magnet on the fridge shaped like a pineapple that says, "Welcome." I thought, am I welcome here? It's my house. But it didn't feel like it. There's something about an empty house when you were expecting to be the only one in it. It's quiet in a way that makes you hear everything else. The neighbor's child giggling, a far-off siren, the rain ticking on the window like someone tapping a pen. I made the tea, didn't drink it. I put the cup on the counter and watched the steam thin until it was gone. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Mark's mother, Susan, sent to me directly, not in the group. It said, "I know you're hurting, but we all are. Don't make this harder on the family. Reach out when you're calmer." I stared at the words, read them again. Calmer, like I was a small storm and she was a weatherman asking me to rain on schedule. I typed and erased 3 replies. Finally, I set the phone down. I felt the pull to reply, to defend myself, to explain, to tell the whole story. But telling the whole story to people who have already decided how they'll listen is like singing in a room with no windows. The sound doesn't go anywhere. It just comes back and hits you. I walked from room to room like I was checking on sleeping children, even though there are no children. In the bedroom, there were 2 pillows on the bed, like always. One had the dip from the weight of his head that wouldn't be there anymore. I ran my hand over it, and it sprang back like memory foam does, like it doesn't have loyalty to the person who left the dip. Back in the living room, I turned on the news. It wasn't habit. It was noise. The local channel was on. Anchor with hair that never moves, that same desk that looks like ice. They were talking about a traffic jam near the bridge and a stray dog that got rescued after being trapped under a porch. I watched it without seeing it, my eyes skimming the colors, the words running under the picture like fish. I don't know why I thought of it then, but I did. The Ring doorbell. When I was in Germany, I watched the clips sometimes, just to see the front porch, like it was the only part of home I could count on. The little square of concrete, the welcome mat with the pineapple, the potted plant that always looks like it's one day away from giving up. The doorbell always pinged me when Amazon dropped packages or when the neighborhood cat with the orange tail decided to sit and stare at my door like he wanted in. I opened the app. There were recordings. While I was away, there were visitors. First, Susan bringing over a casserole, I think, though she left it on the chair and then texted me to say she checked on things. Then Caroline, knocking, holding something in a bag from the bakery, then leaving when no one answered. A man I didn't know, which made my heart jump, but he was selling solar panels. Then, the day before yesterday, the camera had captured something else. The view was skewed from the rain. Drops hung on the lens like the world was crying fat tears. A car pulled up. I recognized it. It was Eric's truck. My brother-in-law got out in gym shorts and a hoodie, then went around to the passenger side and opened the door. Mark got out. My heart did that thing it does, the fast jump and then the slow, sinking thud. My hands went cold. Mark had come back to the house while I was in Germany. Why? I watched them carry a box together, laughing. The sound didn't pick up over the rain, but I could see the shape of laughter. The head thrown back, the mouth open, the shoulders relaxed. They carried 2 more boxes. Honestly, I didn't know what to think. The camera didn't show what they took out. It just showed their faces, smiling in the rain. I scrubbed the video back to the start, watched it again, hit pause, zoomed in. My phone screen made their faces stretch funny. Mark had his favorite hat on, the one from the minor league team he never misses. Eric kept glancing down the street like someone might come. There was something in Mark's other hand, tucked under his arm. I squinted. It was a bag from the pharmacy. Why would he bring a pharmacy bag back here? He had no reason to think I'd be home. He knew I wasn't. I sat down hard on the couch, and the cushions sighed. I could feel the whisper of crumbs under my legs. From some night I'd eaten crackers with cheese and left the plate for morning. Tater jumped up beside me and put one paw on my thigh, like he was claiming me, or comforting me, or both. I thought about calling Caroline, telling her what I saw. I thought about calling Susan and asking her what she knew. I thought about calling my dad, and then I didn't. There are some things a father hears, and then he looks at you different forever. I put my phone on the coffee table and leaned my head back against the couch cushion and let my eyes close in that way that's not sleep, exactly. It's more like retreating to the edge of yourself. A step back. Another step. The news was still on. They went to commercial and came back with the anchor's serious voice. "We have breaking news," he said. The way he said it made my skin prickle. He put on a face like he was about to tell us that the sky had changed color and would never be the same again. I looked up. They showed an image of the airport. Not the inside. The outside. The drop-off lane with the big signs, the little islands with the planters, the special lot where people wait with their engines idling and their eyes on the arrivals board. There were flashing lights. Police, ambulance, rental car shuttles stuck behind the line of cars. And then the words laid across the bottom of the screen like a banner at a parade. Developing. Couple detained in alleged smuggling scheme at local airport. I sat forward so fast, my head went light. The camera cut to a reporter at the scene, hair damp from the rain, holding a mic like it might run away. "Authorities tell us," she said, "that a married couple was detained this evening after trying to bring in a variety of controlled medications without proper documentation. The pair, identified as local residents, Mark and..." She paused. "One name is being withheld pending verification." The sounds in the room went funny. The fridge hum got louder. The rain on the window turned into a rush. My own breath made a rasp. The image cut to a blurry recording someone had taken on their phone. 2 people standing near a table, one with a hoodie pulled up, one with a hat, hands behind their backs. The camera wobbled. Someone in the background said, "Oh man." It wasn't the kind of footage you notice separately on a fast day. On my day, it was a mirror held up at a bad angle. My phone lit up on the coffee table like it had been waiting. "My sister?" Turn on the news. My father. Call me. Susan. Call me right now. Eric. Call me, call me, call me. The group chat exploded like popcorn in a microwave with no door. My throat went dry. I reached for the tea I didn't want, and it was cold. I drank it anyway. I picked up my phone with a hand that felt too slow, like I was wearing gloves. I didn't answer anyone. I pulled up my text to Mark. The last thing from him was a picture of a river and some boats and the words, "It's beautiful here, you'd like it." I stared at those words until they blurred. Then I typed, "What did you do?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared, then nothing. The news kept rolling. The reporter went on about a tip and a watch list and international cooperation. She said those words like we were supposed to applaud them. They showed a photo of Mark from a company event, the kind where everyone stands under a banner. And you can tell they told him to have fun with it, because his smile looks like a painted-on paper mask you wear a minute, and then take off and forget where you put it. They said alleged and under investigation, and not immediately available for comment. I sat there while my phone kept buzzing, and the rain kept talking to the house, and Tater cleaned his paw like nothing was wrong. I wondered if I was asleep. I wondered if I'd dreamt the last month, and I was actually just on my couch in a parallel life, where the most dramatic thing that happened was that the delivery driver left my food at the wrong door. I touched the chipped edge of my mug and thought, this is real. This mug is real. This couch is real. That is my name at the bottom of the screen. They said my neighborhood in that way. News anchors say every neighborhood the same, like they're reading a grocery list, and it made my stomach twist. When Susan called for the 4th time, I answered. "What is happening?" I said, and it came out flat. Not angry, just tired. "Oh, thank God," she said. "Where are you? Are you home? Have you seen?" "I'm watching," I said. "It's not what it looks like." I almost laughed. The sentence felt like a script everyone gets at the beginning of life for when you make a mess. It's not what it looks like. What else could it be? They're saying, she broke off. I heard the murmur of a television in the background, the anchor's voice like a metronome. "I'm sure there's an explanation. You know Mark wouldn't." I said nothing. I'd known a lot of things about Mark once. I'd known he didn't like mushrooms, that he laughed at the same jokes every time, that he always put his clean socks in the wrong drawer. I'd known he liked to keep his phone face down on the table. I hadn't thought about that one. My sister beeped in. I let it go to voicemail. Susan was still talking. "We need to think about the family," she said. "About how this looks. People talk, the neighbors, church friends. You should come over here so we can be together." "I'm not going anywhere," I said. Silence crackled on the line like we were standing under power lines. "Don't be dramatic," she said finally. The word made something inside me lift up, not softly. Dramatic. If I were dramatic, I'd have stood on the porch and thrown the Last Supper picture into the yard moments ago. I would have taken a bat to the mailbox. I would have done something that would make the neighbors peek through their blinds and tell that story later at barbecues. I didn't. I sat on the couch and pressed my fingertips into my knee hard enough to leave little moons. "Susan," I said, slow, picking each word like I was walking across a river on stones. "Did you know he was bringing anything back? Did you know?" She sucked in a breath. People who lie don't like simple questions. "Don't talk to me like that," she said. "I'm your elder." "Did you know?" I said again. It was quiet. The rain softened, like it got tired too. Finally, she said, "He told me he was picking up something for a friend. Nothing to do with any of this. And don't you dare twist that. He wanted to help someone. He's a good man. Is a good man. Present tense. I didn't say anything. She filled the space, because she always does. Listen, I'm going to call Pastor Jim. We'll pray. And you need to take down any pictures you have on your page. Journalists call, you say nothing. Do not say a single word that could make this worse. For all our sakes. In the pause before I could answer, I heard another voice in the background. Eric, he said. Mom, turn it up. My old ears for their house came back. Every house has a voice. Their living room used to smell like lemon cleaner and meatloaf, and their TV was always a little too loud. I pictured them both on the couch, leaning forward, mouths slightly open. I told her, I'm hanging up now. And I did. The house felt too small. The couch felt too soft. I stood up and my knees cracked, the sound harsh in the quiet. I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. My face looked like a face you'd pass in a grocery store and then try to remember later because you think she might have been someone you knew in high school. My hair had a crease from where I'd clipped it up on the plane. My eyes looked like they'd been rubbed with salt. I turned on the cold water and splashed it. And the shock was good. It made me feel like a person again. When I came back to the living room, the news had moved on to the weather for the weekend. The anchor's face softened. He smiled the smile that says nothing bad can happen if you plan your picnic right. I muted it. The silence wasn't silence. It had the whir of the ceiling fan and the faraway hiss of late rain and the hum of my own blood in my ears. My phone buzzed again, and I almost didn't look. It was a text from a number I didn't have saved. It read, "This is Jess from the Post. I'd like to hear your side." I tossed the phone onto the couch like it bit me. I stood in the middle of the rug and looked at the front door. It looked back. Doorways feel like choices, even if you're not going through them. Do you leave? Do you lock? Do you open it and let the air in even if it's hot and heavy? I didn't do any of those yet. I went to the kitchen. I opened the cabinet and pulled down the old shoebox that lives on the top shelf. The box has pictures in it from before the wedding, before the slow drift, before the trip. I spread them on the counter like cards. There we were at the beach, 10 years ago. Sun on our faces, the water behind us like a sheet. There we were at my mama's last Thanksgiving, her smile a little tired but still bright. Her hand on mine under the table, a secret comfort. There we were in front of this house when we bought it, keys in hand, the sold sign a little crooked. I looked until they blurred again. Then I put them back one by one. Slow. I didn't want to throw them away. Not yet. They were true at the time. That's something I hold on to now. Things can be true at the time and not stay true forever. Both can be real. The world is full of that kind of math. Here's where I tell you about suspicion, how it doesn't arrive like a stranger knocking. It moves in like a friend who starts leaving their toothbrush without asking. It takes a while before you realize it's living with you. It starts small. Mark taking more work trips, Mark working late. He started keeping his phone in his pocket while we watched TV. He said it was because he didn't want to be distracted. He started putting his receipts in his briefcase instead of the little bowl by the door. I'd think, maybe he's being organized. Maybe I'm being unfair. And then he'd come home from a trip with a shirt that smelled like a hotel and airplane air, and I'd lean into his neck and breathe in, hoping for the smell of us underneath. Sometimes I caught it. Sometimes I didn't. He told me about Germany like he was telling me about a dream he'd had that he wanted me to approve of. He said the company was expanding. He said he had to go for 2 weeks, then 4. Then, it makes sense to stay. When I told him I felt like a piece of furniture, he moved without asking. He blinked like I spoke a language he hadn't learned. I didn't tell anyone, not at first. When I told Caroline last week that I was flying over to say goodbye, she said, "Girl, that's a lot of money for closure." The way she said closure sounded like she was saying coupon. I said, "I need to see him. I need to know." She said, "Okay. Tell me how it goes," like she was talking about a movie I was going to see opening weekend. At the airport in Frankfurt, he said he had to see a man about a thing. I should have asked about the thing. I should have asked who the man was. But I didn't. I stood on that bridge with the ribbons and felt like if I asked one more question, I'd be the kind of person who was always questioning, and I was tired of being that person. I wanted for 1 minute to just let things be what they seemed. That's a soft want. It's dangerous. Back in my house, I found myself going to the front window. I pulled the curtain back a little and looked out. The rain had stopped. The street was glossy like someone had laid down black marble and told us not to walk on it until it dried. A neighbor walked their dog, a little white one whose paws always get muddy, and they waved without looking. Habit waves. We have a lot of those in this neighborhood. Then I saw it. A car slowed in front of my house. It was one I knew, Susan's sedan. It rolled to a stop and the brake lights glowed like coals. She didn't get out. She sat there, hands on the wheel, staring at the house like it was a person she had to say something to and didn't know how. Then another car pulled up behind her, Caroline's, and after that, Eric's truck. It was like a little parade of people who had told me 15 minutes ago they had no time. Now they did. The kind of time you make when your picture might be on TV. The kind of time you make when you're part of a story people might tell for years. They all sat in their cars, engines running, the air conditioning making the little drop of water I could see drip from one undercarriage onto the pavement. I didn't move. I didn't open the door. I waited. The first one to get out was Caroline. She had on a sweatshirt that says Mama Bear across the front, even though her kids are beyond the age where you wear that. She came to the front step and rang the bell. The sound of the chime made my stomach clench. I didn't move. She rang it again. Then she called out, "I know you're in there." I opened the door. I didn't invite her in. She saw my face and her own shifted, a little crack near her mouth, like a mask that doesn't fit right. "You saw?" she asked, her voice low like we were in church. "I saw," I said. "Look, I didn't know," she said quickly. "I swear, I had no idea. I thought you just meant Germany and the marriage thing, not this. It's a whole other thing." Behind her, Susan got out of her sedan. She held her purse under her arm like someone might try to take it. Eric slammed his truck door and walked up, chest out, trying to look like the kind of man who fixes things by standing near them. "We were watching the news," Susan said, as if this was proof of something. "It's not right. They shouldn't say his name if they don't know the facts. That's slander." I said. "They said alleged." She frowned, like the shape of the word hurt her mouth. "Whatever they said, it's wrong. We need to manage this." I looked at them all standing there on my porch like they were deciding where to put the Christmas tree. My porch, my house, my couch inside with my cat on it, who only loves me when I'm gone for the day, and he thinks I might not come back. I felt something settle in me. Not a peaceful settle. More like when dirt settles to the bottom of a glass of water after you stir it. The water is still cloudy, but you can see the little pile at the bottom, and you think, okay, that's where we are. "I am going to ask you one question," I said, voice steady now. Did any one of you know anything about this? Anything at all? No, Caroline said too fast. Susan pressed her lips. Eric looked away at the plant that's dying. Eric, I said. He ran a hand through his hair and it stood up like grass. He asked me to help him grab some boxes. That's it. Boxes of what? He swallowed. It made a sound. He said medical supplies. For part of his job. He said he didn't want to leave them in the heat. Part of his job. I could feel my jaw clench. The past month replayed in my head at double speed. The receipts I hadn't seen, the pharmacy bag in the Ring doorbell video, the way he avoided talking about what exactly he did over there, saying phrases like the team and the rollout and compliance stuff. Words that say nothing and sound like they say everything. Susan stepped forward, like I might try to run. We're here for you, she said. We're family. But this is about more than just feelings. This is about protecting reputations. You can't go around crying to your friends. And you need to take down that post. What post? The one where you said, you know. She waved her hand like she was shooing a fly. About saying goodbye. People are going to connect dots. They'll think you knew. We can't have that. My marriage is over, I said. That's the post. She tilted her head and made that face she makes when someone tells her they prefer store-bought when it comes to mashed potatoes. Disappointed and a little offended. Maybe don't use words like forever, she said. These things have a way of changing. I looked at Caroline. Her eyes slid away and then back, the way you look when you don't want to look, but you also can't help it. She said, I'm sorry I didn't come get you at the airport. I didn't know. She trailed off. You didn't know it would matter, I said. The words tasted clean and sharp. I didn't say them to hurt her. I said them because I needed to hear myself say true things out loud. You didn't know it would be a story. She blinked slow. That's not fair. Maybe not. But what is fair? Standing on a bridge with ribbons that will keep on fluttering even when the person you tied them with has walked away and won't look back? Are you going to let us in? Susan asked, impatience bleeding through. We shouldn't be doing this on the porch. I thought about it. Then I shook my head. No. Her mouth opened and then closed. Caroline made a small sound, a hum that meant, this is awkward. Eric took a step back and sat on the rail, the one I've told him not to sit on because it wobbles. It wobbled. He stood up. This is not the time to show off your independence, Susan said, finding her footing in the old role. This is when you lean on people. If those people aren't willing to pick you up from the airport, they're probably not the leaning kind, I said, and my voice didn't shake. I was surprised by that. It felt like when you lift a bag you think is full of rocks, and it turns out to be full of feathers. The relief makes you lightheaded. We didn't know. Caroline started. You knew enough, I said. You knew I was tired and sad and coming home. You knew I asked for help. She reached out and touched my arm. Her hand was warm. I know, she said soft. I'm sorry. Then she dropped her voice more. But also, this. We have to figure out what to say. People will call me. They'll ask if you knew. I need to know what to say. Tell them the truth, I wanted to say. Tell them I knew my marriage was ending and I didn't know my husband was bringing back anything he shouldn't. Tell them I was making tea I didn't drink. Tell them the cat is named Tater. Tell them none of that will make sense of this and it doesn't need to. But that's not the kind of sentence people like in this neighborhood. Tell them I didn't know, I said. Because I didn't. Susan's eyes narrowed. Say you didn't know, she said. And say you support the family. Say we're unified. We're going to make a statement. A statement, I repeated. The word felt like a piece of plastic in my mouth. What is this? A company? She didn't laugh. This is reputation. This is people's impressions. Once those get formed, they don't go away. I felt a tiredness come over me that wasn't about sleep. It was like my body decided to step back and sit on a bench while my mouth and hands and feet kept working. I'm not making a statement, I said. I'm going to drink my tea. It was quiet for a beat. Then Susan's face changed. It was fast, like clouds move over the sun. She smiled, sharp, the kind she uses when she talks to salespeople on the phone. Suit yourself, she said. But we're not the enemy here. Don't forget who you run to when the world goes bad. We took you in. You're one of us. Am I? I asked, as calmly as I could, because today I felt like I was a convenience when it was convenient. Eric finally spoke. Words slow, like he had to push them out with a shoulder. He didn't tell me, he said. Not everything. He looked at Susan. She shot him a look that had the weight of years in it. Then he looked back at me. But I think there's more. I think there's been more for a while. What more? I said. He swallowed again. His throat worked. Caroline put her hand on his arm like she was steadying him. He had me drop off a package a month ago to this guy, said it was a part, for work. He said it was a favor. I didn't ask questions. His voice got smaller. I should have. I closed my eyes. The part where you don't ask questions because asking makes you feel like the bad one. That feeling. The taste of it. It's been in my mouth for too long. Okay, I said. And it was like a lever got pulled somewhere deep and the machine shifted. Inside my house, my phone lit up again. It made a splash of light on the ceiling through the window like a fish in a pond. A new message. One I wasn't expecting. It was from a woman named Lena. The name meant nothing to me yet. She wrote, "You don't know me. I'm sorry to text you out of nowhere. I think you deserve to know what I know about Mark." I stared. The world, when it falls apart, doesn't do it in one big piece. It does it in little bits. You pick up one and see another under it. You look away and there's a new one at your feet. And then there's the moment your eyes adjust to the mess. "Who's that?" Caroline asked. I looked up at her and then back at the phone. "A stranger," I said. "Maybe." "Don't," Susan started. "Do not answer that. It's probably one of those reporters, or someone looking to make $1 off this. People are sharks." I stepped back, into the house. "I'm going to answer," I said. I wasn't being brave, exactly. It felt more like being tired of a particular kind of silence. You can stay on the porch, or you can go. Those are the options. "Don't shut us out," Caroline said. Her voice was soft again. The part of me that still wraps up in a blanket and watches our mama's old videos with her wanted to tell her it wasn't about shutting out. It was about stepping away. Sometimes you have to leave the door you're standing at, even if it's the one that's familiar, because it's also the one that keeps hitting you in the face when the wind picks up. "I'll call you later," I said, and closed the door. I didn't slam it. I just set it against the frame and turned the lock. It clicked in that satisfying way locks do, like you could hear the mechanism saying, "I got you." Through the glass, I saw the blur of their bodies. I heard muffled voices. I heard a car door open. Another. Engines. Then quiet. I walked back to the couch and sat. My cat hopped into my lap and made biscuits with his paws on my jeans, kneading like he was making dough out of me. I opened the message from Lena. She wrote again before I could reply. I know this is a bad time. I saw your name on the screen and my stomach dropped. I've been trying to figure out how to do this for a while. I was involved with him. For a short time. I ended it. He said he was separated. I didn't know about the rest. He asked me to pick up a package last month and I didn't. I told him I wouldn't be part of anything sketchy. Then he scared me a little. He's not who you think he is. I'm sorry. The world narrowed to the bright rectangle of my phone. I read it again. Then again. The letters looked like they were moving, the way ants do when they swarm. My hand shook. I put the phone down and then picked it up again because putting it down felt like letting it go, and I wasn't ready to let anything go yet. I typed, "Are you local?" She answered, "Yes." "What do you know?" I wrote. She took a minute. The dots came and went like she was breathing. Then she wrote, "I know about a storage unit. I know a name he uses. I know he borrowed money. I know he said he loved me, and then didn't look me in the eye when I told him I couldn't do secrets. I also know you don't know me. And this is a lot. I can meet you in a public place. You can bring someone. Or not. I just needed to tell you because I think he's dragging people into a mess." I leaned back. My head hit the cushion. The fan whirred. The room spun just a little and then slowed. All day I had been holding onto a rope that someone else was pulling. Running to Germany, saying goodbye, flying back, watching the news, answering Susan, standing on the porch while people told me to be calmer or smarter or quieter. This message felt like a hand coming out of a different place to take the rope from me. No. I stared at the last word I'd written to myself in my own head, no, and felt, for the first time that day, a small piece of ground under my feet. Not much. A square of sidewalk, enough for my toes. I wrote back to Lena. "Tomorrow morning, 9, the diner on Maple, corner booth." She replied fast, "I'll be there." I put the phone face down on the coffee table and let both hands fall to my sides. They felt empty and heavy at the same time. Outside, a car passed, and for a second the headlights swept across my ceiling and made it look like waves sliding over a pool floor at night. Tater blinked slow at me, his green eyes soft, then tucked himself into a loaf on my lap, his nose pressed to his own paw like he was keeping a secret. I fell asleep like that, half sitting, half sinking. Because the body will claim sleep when it needs to, even if the mind is a room with all the lights on and drawers open. When I woke, gray was already touching the edges of the curtains. The air smelled like old rain and clean dust, the smell houses have after a storm. My neck ached. My mouth was dry. My phone had slid to the floor. For a minute, I forgot everything. I lay still and listened to the house. The compressor kick on, the click of the thermostat, the cat jumping down from the couch, the tiny sound of his claws on wood. Then it all came back like a sheet being yanked. Quick, too bright, edges flapping. I sat up. The room reminded me of a waiting room after everyone has gone home. Chairs still, magazines crooked, a pen left on the floor like a clue. I made coffee because that's what people do to prove to themselves they're still people. The machine gurgled and sighed and filled the kitchen with that smell that is a promise and a crutch. I stood with my palms on the counter and felt the cool laminate. The pineapple magnet on the fridge looked tired of smiling. I took it off and set it in the junk drawer. The front of the fridge looked naked then, which felt honest. I showered. The water ran hot enough to sting a little, and I tilted my face into it until my scalp tingled. I found the soft jeans, the gray t-shirt that doesn't try hard, and the blue sweatshirt I stole from Mark years ago that still smelled faintly like the fabric softener his mother swears by. I put it back in the drawer and grabbed a different one. Habit is a tricky thing. It will dress you in yesterday if you let it. On the way out, I hesitated at the door and remembered the Ring camera, its unblinking round eye. I stepped closer, lifted it off the mount, and set it gently in the hall drawer next to old batteries and stray screws. When I closed the drawer, the soft roll of wood on wood felt like putting a lid on something. The morning felt thinner than other mornings, like the neighborhood had been stretched tight overnight and everything would ping if you touched it wrong. A jogger went by with a dog that looked like a mop, both of them more cheerful than I could tolerate. A delivery truck rumbled like distant thunder. I locked the door and tucked the keys in my pocket and felt their weight. Driving to the diner, the streets looked like they always do, and not at all like they used to. The mural of blue wings on the brick wall that teenagers pose in front of had a new tag in orange sprayed across the corner. Not art, just letters stacked like a secret language. A school bus hissed to a halt, and a kid in a puffy coat bigger than he needed hopped down with a backpack that slapped his lower back when he ran. The light turned red. I stopped. In the next lane, a woman put on lipstick in her rearview mirror with the focus of a surgeon. Maple Diner sits like it always has, even before I could drive. Rectangular, chrome edges dulled by time, a neon sign that hums gently like a content bee. The smell hit me when I opened the door. Coffee, bacon, hot griddle, syrup. The faint tang of bleach that says someone cleaned late last night. The kind of smell that makes old men tell long stories and toddlers fall asleep mid-pancake. I picked the corner booth because that's where backs feel safest. The vinyl stuck a little to my wrist. A server with a long braid and a name tag that said, Lonnie poured water before I could ask, and set a menu down with the kind of nod that says, I see you, you're a person sitting here, that's enough for now. I ordered coffee. When she asked cream or sugar, I shook my head. Black felt appropriate, like a uniform. I saw Lena before I recognized her. She hesitated at the door, hand on the glass, scanning the room. Then she saw me, and her shoulders dropped a notch. She was younger than me by a handful of years, but not a kid. Dark hair pulled into a low knot, a jacket one size too big like she borrowed it for courage. No makeup or the kind you can't see. She walked over like someone approaching a dog she wants to pet, but isn't sure if it bites. Hi, she said. Her voice was steady with a thread of nerves in it. You could pluck like a string if you were mean. I'm Lena. I nodded and said her name, to try it on, to make it real. She slid into the booth across from me. Lonnie arrived with another water, read the table in a glance, and said she'd give us a minute. Lena wrapped both hands around the glass like a person warming up after cold. Thank you for meeting me, she said. Thank you for reaching out, I said, surprising myself by meaning it, without bitterness. The two of us sat there for a few seconds, just looking at each other, checking for a shape we recognized. Not rivals, not friends. People on either side of something they didn't build. She spoke first. I met him at the pharmacy, she said quietly. And when she saw my face, she added, I used to pick up supplies for the clinic on Oak. He came in a few times. He was charming. Not in the cheesy way. In the, I'm tired, but I still see you way. He asked about the bracelets I make. I sell them sometimes on Saturdays. He noticed details? It felt nice. She looked down at her hands like they were things a magician had pulled out of a hat, and she didn't quite trust them. He told me he was separated, she went on. Said it was amicable. He said he was traveling a lot and it didn't make sense to ask you to wait. He didn't use your name at first. I didn't push. People deserve some privacy. She winced at her own words. I felt the air in the diner shift a degree. I wasn't sure if it was me or the air. Behind Lena, a man in a blue baseball cap laughed too loud at something on his phone. Lonnie slid a coffee down next to me. The smell lifted up, warm and bitter, like a lesson learned twice. "How long?" I asked, keeping my voice level like a plate I didn't want to spill. "A few months," she said. She swallowed. It wasn't. She stopped and shook her head, frustrated at words. I ended it when he asked me to pick up a package. He said it was nothing, just a courier thing, a favor, an envelope. He gave me a name to put down if anyone asked. Evan. I told him I wouldn't do it. I told him if he wanted to do something murky, he could leave me out. "Evan?" I repeated, the name tasting like aluminum. "He has a middle name he hates," I said, almost to myself. Evan. I pictured him at our dining table, smiling at the novelty of a slice of pie like he'd never had one before, telling a story with his hands. It felt like remembering a movie with an actor you now know is gone. "He got angry," she said, not yelling, cold, like I'd spoiled something. He said I was being dramatic. The word landed between us like a shared bruise. "What do you know about the storage unit?" I asked. She took a quick breath. "He rented one over by the freeway, the place with the orange doors, Unit B." She stopped, looked at me carefully. "I shouldn't know the number. I saw it by accident. He left a key in my car when he asked me to drive him once. It had a tag. I looked it up because I was stuck between curiosity and self-respect, and curiosity won. I drove by. I didn't go in. I'm not brave. Or maybe I am because I didn't go in. I don't know. Sometimes the bravest thing is the thing that looks like not moving. I knew this now. Did he ever mention Germany? Work? I asked. He said compliance, she said. We both almost laughed, but didn't. He said regulatory and logistics and gray areas. And I said he sounded like a brochure, and he smiled at that. He has that way of smiling with the corner of his mouth like he's sharing a joke with himself. He did. Does. Maybe did now. Tenses get slippery when people make choices. Lonnie drifted by and we both said, "Just coffee?" Like we'd rehearsed it. She smiled and left us a little bowl of creamers, even though neither of us had asked. Because sometimes kindness is a reflex, and you hope it lands somewhere it's needed. "Why did you text me?" I asked gently. "Today." She looked at the window, where a group of kids pressed their hands to the glass as they passed, leaving smudges 5-finger wide. "Because I saw your name on the news," she said. "And because I've been sleeping with my car keys next to my bed for 2 weeks. That's not normal. I keep thinking he'll show up and look at me with that look he has that makes you feel like you've disappointed him by not reading his mind. I told my sister, and she said to let it go. But my sister also thinks you can fix a roof with duct tape if you just believe in it. I wanted to make sure you weren't in the dark, that no one else gets dragged into this without choosing." I nodded. I didn't say thank you because it felt too small. I didn't say I'm sorry because I wasn't sure who that was for. I said, "Do you feel safe?" Which is the question they taught us at the clinic to ask, even when you don't know what you'll do with the answer. She glanced at the door. "I feel safer here right now than I have in days," she said. Isn't that funny? A diner, syrup on the table, old men arguing about sports. I woke up and almost didn't come. But then I thought about how secrets rot everything they sit on. We sat with that. Two women in a booth, the world spinning gentle and brutal outside the window. "Can you write down what you know?" I asked. "Names, dates, the storage place." "I'm not going to. I just want facts, not a story. I've had enough of stories." She nodded and pulled a receipt from her bag and a pen from behind her ear. Her handwriting had the same energy as her voice, neat, a little hurried. She wrote, "Storage, freeway lock, orange doors, unit B12, name he used, Evan Miles. Friend, Doc, no actual name given. Package ask, last month, Tuesday rainy, pharmacy bag, cash." She slid the paper toward me with 2 fingers, like it might bite. I looked at it and felt something inside me align, not joy, not relief, but the satisfaction of a puzzle piece clicking, even if the picture is one you don't want. My phone buzzed. I didn't look. Lena's eyes darted to it and then away, like it might be rude to watch someone else's alarm go off. I let it buzz again. It stopped. Peace drops fast and leaves a ring. "I'm going to the storage place," I heard myself say. "Not right this second, but I'm going." She nodded, then shook her head. "You shouldn't go alone," she said, and the words had the weight of someone who has learned something the hard way. "Bring someone, or call someone to meet you there." I thought of my sister, of Susan, of Eric. I thought of my father's thumbs-up emojis, an old man's way of trying to give approval to the chaos he doesn't understand. I thought of Tom with the lake life hat and the soft voice. Then I thought of someone else, May from the clinic, who once chased a guy halfway down the hall when he tried to skip out on a bill, not because of the $20, but because he'd lied to her face after she'd stayed late to help him fill out a form. May has a stance that tells the world, "Not today." "I'll call a friend," I said. Lena let out a breath like she'd been holding it for an hour. "Okay." She looked like she was about to say more, then didn't. She reached into her bag again and pulled out a small Ziploc with a bracelet in it. Blue thread, tiny silver beads. "I made this," she said. "I don't know. It's silly. You don't have to." I took it, ran my thumb over the beads. The cool slide of them was soothing in a childish way that felt honest. "Thank you," I said, and meant it without complication. We paid in that awkward dance of please, let me, no, let me, and ended up splitting it because fairness is the easiest thing to agree to when everything else is tilting. At the door, she paused. "If he contacts you," she said, "record it, write it down, keep track. The details are what people try to make you forget." "I will," I said. She nodded once, like a bird, then left. I stood for a second and watched her cross the street, her jacket too big, her steps quick but not running. She didn't look back. I liked her for that. Outside, the air was sharper. The storm had scrubbed the sky. The light made the edges of things a little too crisp. I got in my car and sat with my hands on the wheel, then picked up my phone. The missed call was from an unknown number. A voicemail waited. I pressed play and turned the volume low. "Hey," Mark's voice said. My name followed, soft, almost tender. He sounded tired, like someone calling from a room with bad lighting. "We need to talk. This is out of control. You can't believe everything you see on TV. Call me back. I'll explain." A pause, then, "Please." I let the silence after that play, like the end of a song. I hit save. Then I texted May. "Can you meet me at Freeway Lock in 1 hour? Need a favor. Serious." She wrote back so fast it made me smile. "Say less. On my way. Bring your mean face." On the drive, I passed the bridge over the creek, where teenagers tape streamers at graduation time. Strips of last year's red and white still fluttered in the weeds, faded to pink and cream. In the turn lane, the radio crackled and the news voice slid in. In an update to last night's developing story. I turned it off. Some days you need less narration and more quiet. Freeway Lock looks like a place dreaming of being a fort. Rows of orange doors, each the size of a promise people make to themselves about what they'll deal with later. The office is a rectangle that smells like coffee and cardboard. A man in a vest sat behind the glass, looking at his phone like it had secrets. He looked up when I pushed open the door. A bell dinged. "Morning," he said. Hair close-cropped, a mustache that was making a comeback in his mind, if nowhere else. His name tag read, Pete. "What can I do for you?" "My friend is meeting me," I said. "We need to access a unit. B12. He typed with 2 fingers, the keyboard clicking like old typewriter keys in a room full of softer things. He frowned. "That's not under your name." "I know," I said, keeping my voice calm but aiming it straight at him like a beam. "I have a key." He weighed that. People who work at places like this learn to read the weather in people's faces. He looked at mine and must have seen a storm he didn't want to stand in. "No trouble," I added. "I won't break anything. I just need to look." "That's what they all say," he said, but without malice. He slid a form through the slot. "If you got a key and you ain't cutting a lock, I'm not getting between a person and their door. Sign this saying you're not going to sue me if your ex shows up yelling." I blinked. Do I look like someone whose ex is going to show up yelling? He shrugged. "Everybody does. Don't take it personal." I signed. The pen left a blot like a small eclipse beside my name. When I turned around, May was already in the doorway. She doesn't walk into rooms so much as announce to them with her shoulders that she's not interested in nonsense today. Her braids were pulled into a bun that sat like a crown. She had on her clinic scrubs under a denim jacket that said in embroidery, "Not here to play." "You okay?" she asked, eyes scanning my face, then the office, then Pete, then back to me. "No," I said, "but I'm here." "That'll do," she said, and squeezed my arm. Her hand was warm and solid and real. We crossed the lot. Our steps echoed off metal doors. B row was near the fence, the chain links buzzing with freeway breath. B10, B11, B12. The lock on B12 was an old circle lock with scratches around the edge like someone had fumbled drunk once. I slid the tag key in. It fit. It turned slow, then gave with a soft click that could have been the sound of 100 other moments in my life. Doors, boxes, old diaries. "You ready?" May asked. "No," I said. "Open it." She didn't smile. She put her hand on mine where it held the handle, and together we rolled the orange door up. It rattled like old teeth and squealed on one side. The smell hit first. Paper, plastic, the faint medicinal sweet of cough syrup, the sour ghost of cardboard that had seen rainy days. Inside, boxes, not stacked high, but arranged like someone who thinks neat equals invisible. A folding table leaned against the wall. A plastic bin labeled with blue painter's tape in block letters. Winter. Another labeled Receipts. Another, Old House. "Do you want me to?" May asked. Meaning, do you want me to open them? "Yes," I said. She picked up a box labeled Receipts and set it on the little dolly that sat in the corner. And then she looked at me, eyebrows up. "He labeled it Receipts," she said. He really believed in himself. I sliced the tape with my key. Inside, envelopes. Not the home bowl of receipts, but thick manila envelopes with more blue tape labels. J. Martinez, H. Cole, Evan M. Inside each, stacks of papers rubber-banded and ringed with notes in Mark's handwriting. Neat, slanted, a trace of impatience in the way the tails of the Ys snapped. Numbers. Drug names I recognized from the clinic inventory lists. Totals, calculations, doses circled like secrets. A little notebook with columns and short first names like aliases. Doc, Red, L. My stomach did a slow roll. I felt like I'd opened a drawer and all the silverware was replaced with knives. May's eyes met mine. She whistled low, just air. "Well," she said, "a man with an organized conscience." The next box, winter. Inside, sweaters, yes, but tucked under them in a shoebox, blister packs and bottles with foreign labels. The kind you can order if you know the path. The kind you bring if you're hoping no one asks questions. Not selling candy. Not innocent. I put my hand on the pile of sweaters because I needed something soft to touch. My fingers sank into wool. I remembered buying one of them with him on a day we fought about whether to get a tree real or fake. He wanted real, said fake trees smell like plastic and disappointment. We got real that year. The needles got in the carpet, and we were still finding them in June. He laughed every time. I wanted to gather those needles now and show them to someone and say, "See? We were real once." May put a box cutter in my hand. "Keep going," she said, gentle but firm, like a coach when you start to slow. We found cash. Not piles, not like the movies, but enough to make my pulse do a strange staccato. Rubber banded, tucked in a cereal box that had been opened clean with a knife and re-glued. We found a contract from a storage unit across town with a name I didn't know. We found a passport cover without a passport. We found a letter from a woman named Lena. My Lena? Not a letter, a note. A sticky note with a heart drawn in the corner and a phone number. He'd written the word chill next to it, like a command to himself or a joke at her expense. I felt heat behind my eyes, sharp and mean. "You want to take pictures?" May said, practical as a hammer. "Before moving anything. Time, date. Your phone should stamp it." I did. My hands steadied, as if they were the ones making the decisions, and my heart could follow along later. Picture of the door. Picture of the boxes. Close-ups of labels. Receipts, names, numbers. The notebook. The cash. The cereal box. The sweater pile with the shoe box. A photo of my hand holding the passport cover because part of me wanted the record to show. I touched the skin of this lie, and it didn't burn me. May stepped back. "We should call someone," she said. "Not Susan, not Eric. Someone with a badge who doesn't owe anyone a casserole." The word badge made my ribs tighten. But she was right. I took a breath. "I'll call the detective," I said. And then realized I didn't have a detective. I had a news anchor and a voicemail and a Pete behind a glass window who looked like he'd seen worse and better. "The station said there was a tip line," I added. May nodded. "I'll call our lawyer friend," she said. "The one who helped Janie with her neighbor dispute and didn't charge her because he said being right should be free." We made our calls. The woman at the number on the station's page took my information in a voice that was flat in a comforting way, like she had a wall of index cards behind her with bad stories and knew where to file mine. She said someone would come. May's lawyer friend said to not touch another thing, to close the door, to take pictures of us closing the door, to text him the unit number, to put my hands in my pockets until the detective got there so I wouldn't be tempted to move the sweater that did not need moving. We waited in the thin strip of shade, the freeway humming like a bad thought you can't shake. May stood beside me, arms crossed, the kind of steady that lets your knees remember how to lock. I kept my hands in my pockets so I wouldn't touch anything I couldn't take back. I'd already taken photos, the labels, the notebook, the cash in the cereal box, the sweater hiding the pills. Facts, not feelings. Dates, not guesses. I called the number the station posted. May texted our lawyer friend who believes being right should be free. I said my name out loud to the woman on the line, and it sounded like a person I could defend. In the pause after I spelled it, I heard my own breath and the far rattle of a shopping cart somewhere past the fence. I used to think silence was empty. Turns out it's storage. Detectives pulled in 10 minutes later, a dark sedan that didn't show off. The woman's badge flashed, clean and official. I showed them what we'd seen. I didn't add color. I didn't apologize. Morales asked the kind of questions that feel like steps across a creek. One at a time, no leaps. The other one, Finch, flipped through the notebook with gloved fingers, and I watched my first name next to a dollar sign float up like a bruise you didn't notice until light hit it right. I told them yes, I'd bridged him once. I told them no, I didn't know about the unit. I told them a woman named Lena did the kindest hard thing and texted me. I felt my voice hold like a beam in a storm. Morales nodded like she believed facts when she saw them. May squeezed my elbow once, quiet, the way you pat a railing before you trust your weight. The air smelled like hot metal and old tape. Somewhere, a radio played a song I knew all the words to and couldn't hear. We took one more set of photos, then I slid the orange door down, the corrugated teeth chattering their last. In the narrow echo, something inside me clicked from why didn't I see it to I see it now. That's not grace. It's gravity. We rolled the orange door down, and the metal clanged like a cymbal in a high school band room. Pete wandered over from the office, hands in his vest pockets, eyes doing that casual thing that is not casual at all. "Everything cool?" he asked, which is what men say when they want to know if they need to get involved and are hoping the answer is no.